skyrocketing to new records, and we now know who is behind Tesla's $1.5 billion Bitcoin buy. This is all about Bitcoin, a show dedicated to all things questions and markets related to Bitcoin. Little b for the currency, and Bitcoin, big B, for the network, a collective journey to understand, apply, and use this innovation. All Bitcoin, all the time. And I'm your host, Christine Lee, and we've got breaking news to start off the show. We always love that. Coinbase, the largest crypto exchange in the United States, was behind Tesla's purchase of $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin. According to the block, the purchase was made during the first week of February over the course of several days and routed to several over-the-counter trading desks. News of Tesla's buy last week catapulted the price of Bitcoin to record highs that continue to this day. Right now, Bitcoin is blasting to new all-time highs. The XBX Bitcoin price trading right now past $52,000. It's up over 7% over the past 24 hours. It just keeps going and reaching new record highs. The XBX has been the most reliable Bitcoin reference price for institutions since 2014, with billions in assets under management benchmarked against it. And joining me now to discuss is Michael Shalov, CEO and co-founder of Fireblocks, a crypto custody transfer and settlement platform in New York. Welcome, Michael.
Thanks, Christine, for having me.
Well, it's quite a historic day. High-level reaction from you to the news that Coinbase was behind Tesla's $1.5 billion purchase of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, definitely an amazing day. Clearly a day that basically broke through the 50 and went high. So, looking forward to see where it can get.
Also revealed today, Coinbase, which is preparing a public offering in the next few months, has a $77 billion valuation, and according to shares on the Nasdaq private market, and that implies a total company value greater than the Intercontinental Exchange, the owner of the New York Stock Exchange, of course. So earlier I had to speak to Shapeshift CEO Eric Voorhees about Coinbase's valuation. I want you to have a listen.
Well, it's high for any company to get a valuation like that. It's not at all strange when we're talking about a year of a bull run in Bitcoin and crypto generally. And I think there's obviously this somewhat artificial pressure on any asset that normal institutions can buy because there's no Bitcoin ETF. So companies, individuals that would like that kind of exposure will end up going to kind of alternative proxies. Coinbase will absolutely be seen as an alternative proxy to Bitcoin generally. So we're all obviously super excited about that success, and I think kudos to that team for building the most important and valuable company in all of the crypto industry so far.
Michael, what's your take on Coinbase's valuation?
No, I mean, definitely it's an amazing valuation, and it's very impressive that Coinbase, which was one of the first first companies that built a scalable offering into this space. I think it's a very important time for them going public. I agree that it basically reflects a high premium on a business that is like vertically integrated, and I think a lot of that is the reach that they have within the US around consumers, and I think also it reflects probably like a very strong potential of where we see that business growing in the future. Essentially, like many ways competing with the main banking institutions, right? So I think that's like really where that valuation is coming from. That they are taking on companies in the future, probably like Wells Fargo and probably companies like PayPal and some of the others. So it's not surprising that this is the valuation that they're getting.
I want to say, by comparison, Voyager, a competitor which claims to be the #1 crypto broker in the US, is already trading on the Toronto Venture Exchange. It's trading at about $14 with a market cap of $1.8 billion compared to Coinbase, which is trading over $300 on the secondary market with a post-IPO value pegged at over $60 billion still. So do you think Coinbase is a bit frothy at a $77 billion valuation?
No, so first of all, we're glad to talk about Voyager because they're actually a customer of ours. They use us as part of their infrastructure for the custody part. But keep in mind that Voyager and Coinbase, although that there is a fairly big line of business that is actually the same line of business that is the retail-facing brokerage. Coinbase is at the moment is a much more diversified business, right? So they have their institutional exchange and essentially their prime broker, right? Coinbase Pro and Coinbase Prime. They have a custody business that is pulling decent institutional money. So it's true that there are areas where you can compare both. I also think that the $1.5 billion valuation for Voyager is amazing, right? I think it's remarkable. Mm-hmm. But in many ways, Coinbase is actually going on a much broader undertake and a much wider undertake across the board.
Right. Michael, switching topics, Fireblocks has landed a custody partnership with Diem Stablecoin, formerly the Facebook-led Libra project. So when and in what capacity will we see the Diem stablecoin, and who will use it?
Yeah, so maybe just to articulate the partnership. Our partnership is basically was First Digital Assets to basically support the Diem stablecoin from a custody and from a payment services and standpoint. So the interesting thing about Diem is clearly that, in our view, is that it's going to revolutionize the way that consumer payments and consumer merchant payments being done. It's also probably going to revolutionize cross-border remittance, right? One of the challenges that people that want to work with Diem with the currency have is that basically you have all those merchants, right? Whether it's your coffee shop or an online travel agency, to really big consumer giants like Spotify, Lyft, Uber that are part of the association. And basically those guys need to be able to accept Diem as a payment. Right now they accept credit card, right? But the beauty of stablecoins and the beauty of Diem particularly is that it should significantly reduce the basis of, or the commissions that they pay to the credit card companies, and essentially integrate the path of money from the consumer to the merchant, and then essentially the utilization around for example, kind of remittance flows.
Right.
The partnerships that we basically build, or the technology that we built together with First, allows those merchants and the payments and the payment service providers that usually serve them on the credit card side to have a turnkey solution by which they enable those merchants, either directly or indirectly, to accept those coins, hold them in the custody, do all the stuff that they need to do from a payment standpoint, like issue refunds, do recurring billing, off-ramp that to a real fiat money to pay salaries and so on.
Yeah, I heard that the Diem stablecoin project, we might see it even come out at the end of the first quarter. But unfortunately, Michael, that's all the time we have for today. But thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was Michael Shalov, CEO of Fireblocks and co-founder of Fireblocks in New York. Coming up, BTC Markets analysis with none other than CoinDesk's finest, in this case, CoinDesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore. Welcome back. Quick check on the XBX Bitcoin price. Right now trading above $52,000 and 60 and some change. up about 7.5% over the past 24 hours, according to TradeBlock data. BTC is up about 70% year to date with a $950 billion market cap. The market value of all cryptocurrencies has topped $1.5 trillion. And joining me now with some BTC markets analysis is CoinDesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Welcome, Galen.
Thanks, Christine.
All right. Well, first off, I'd love to hear your take on what data sticks out to you as you see Bitcoin's incredible record-setting rally.
You know, I think it's. I think honestly, the most important data powering this, the most important numbers powering this rally are the numbers that reflect institutional involvement. So if you look to things like the rise of exchanges like LMAX, which deals exclusively with institutional investors. If you look to the growth in the CME Bitcoin futures markets, which are now above, I think, 2.5 billion in open interest, you now have a universe where institutions can participate, and there are signals that they are. So we're no longer in a kind of retail enthusiasm, kind of people rushing in speculative mode, but more in a world in which people can participate and profit whether number go up or number go down. And I think that's a much more sustainable footing to be on. So, you know, the comparison to 2017 is obvious, but I would say there are some significant differences.
You have a couple of charts to show us. The first is exchange downtime incidents and daily price. So what does this tell us?
Yeah, so I was looking at the, well, first of all, looking ahead to the Robinhood hearings on Capitol Hill tomorrow. And, you know, my goal was really to set a low bar for these charts and try to make them more informationally useful than I think those hearings will be. I think the hearings, we're not probably going to learn much about future regulatory footing on securities or you know, improvements in capital markets.
Do you think they'll have any impact on Bitcoin?
You know, I think the only impact they can have on Bitcoin is positive. The more people think about these questions, the more they start to think about alternatives, the more they become curious. But I do think it's, you know, it's an instructive comparison to look at the way trading is set up in crypto markets versus the way it's set up in equities markets. So the Robinhood story in a nutshell is, you know, the GameStop price ran up. The clearinghouse that the brokerage Robinhood works with demanded more money to secure the sort of risk between the trade and the settlement, which is a 2-day period in equities. And you know, that sort of stopping of trading is what's created this huge kerfuffle, right? They had to halt trading as a result. The truth is that kind of halt happens frequently in crypto markets as well, as this chart shows. The price goes up or down by a significant amount. You see a lot of new volume flooding into the market. And, you know, the exchanges, now crypto exchanges don't have clearinghouses. They don't have brokerages. Individuals interact directly with the market through the exchange. They move funds right onto the exchange. But you have this, so they have an innovative system that's eliminated a middleman, but you still have technology in the middle, and technology can fail. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at the 4 exchanges that make up the XBX Bitcoin price, which are Bitstamp, Coinbase, Kraken, and LMAX. Bitstamp did not have any outage incidents in the first couple months of the year here so far, as reported by the Down Detector service, which, you know, tracks outages, reported outages on various services, including crypto exchanges. So we left them off, and LMAX data is being institution only, is not available in that way. So we're looking at Kraken and Coinbase, 2 of the largest exchanges that are accessible to U.S. investors. And
well, I see that, you know, with Coinbase, there's on January 11th, we see a huge spike and a huge spike in the volumes as well. What does that tell us? I think you mentioned something. I think you mentioned once, you know, about the maturity of the asset, you know, as the price.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a telling moment, right? I mean, well, it's not necessarily a moment. This has been the case for some time. If you look back to 2017, it wasn't uncommon to see volumes kind of go up and down with the price. Price go up, volume on exchange goes up, right? As the price is going up, more and more people are paying attention, more people are rushing in. The price goes down, interest wanes. And that's not typical. In a typical stock market environment, you see the price moves in either direction. Volumes go up as people come into the market looking to buy or sell. And what's interesting is you're now beginning to see that with volumes and prices in the crypto markets as well. When the price crashes, volume goes up, and I think that's a healthy sign of maturity in those markets. This this chart here, I think, just merely makes the point that when volume goes up, a lot of times you have multiple exchanges failing at those moments. And we were looking at, I think on an earlier slide, we had Binance thrown into the mix as well, just to provide some perspective on another major exchange. And you can see that there are multiple exchanges failing on the days when the price is moving, when it's either dipping below a threshold point or when it's rising or falling. And those tend to be the days in this market where volume is increasing, and you see these technical difficulties coming into play, preventing.
I can imagine there'll be technical difficulties today with the price surge.
Possible. It's quite possible. The point is, it's, people rail against the middleman, right? But if you can't trade and you feel like you're losing money, it doesn't really matter whether the middleman is an algorithm or a brokerage or a clearinghouse. It's still a frustrating experience.
All right, Galen, thank you so much for your time and your insights. We'll be watching the price, and we'll be watching those Robinhood hearings.
Thanks, Christine. Good to be here.
All right, that was CoinDesk Director of Data and Indexes, Galen Moore in Boston. Time now for the chart of the day. Bitcoin's price has climbed on average $10,000 a month since mid-October. You see there, according to TradeView data. So where do we go from here? Well, the next key milestone for Bitcoin is when its market cap tops $1 trillion, a threshold that would signal a new level of maturity for the asset. Based on the outstanding number of Bitcoins, that would happen when Bitcoin's price clears about $53,677, which it's very close to achieving right now. That's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. Join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in New York for First Mover, your first look at the day's global crypto news headlines. You're watching CoinDesk TV.